Hey guys, what we're going to be looking at today are distributors. I always like to have the distributor out of the car when I'm going to work on it, especially when the distributor is mounted to the back of the engine. It's just hard to get in there. So when you remove it, you don't have to necessarily take the time to get the engine set to top dead center number one. What's important is to put it back in the way it came out. And so take a picture. You can take and scribe a mark down here where the clamp goes. Scribe a line between the distributor and the block so you get the body in the right position. You can make note where the rotor is pointed, make a little mark on the top. But you want to just be sure that you can put the distributor back in the exact way that it was. A couple of things to check when you've got it just in your hands like this is check the shaft for end play, which this feels nice and tight. Then check for lateral play, side to side, both top and bottom. This is nice and tight. If the shaft is flopping around in the housing, you're going to have erratic timing. Things aren't going to be right. So I got the distributor mounted up here in the vise and the wooden blocks. It's nice and secure so we can work on it. I'm going to show you a couple of ways of troubleshooting to make sure that your problem is with the points and or the condenser. And so the first method is I'm going to use my ohm meter. And as you can see, when contacts are shorted, we see about 0.4 ohms of resistance. So I'm going to hook the negative side to the metal housing on the vacuum advance just because it's convenient, and we'll hook the positive side to where the coil would go. And as you can see, the points are closed. We have 0.4 ohms, so the points are conducting current properly. Now if we turn the distributor a little bit, we see the circuit goes open. Now that doesn't tell us if the condenser is good or not. It just is verified that the points are low resistance, which is what you want to see, is low resistance. And this is without any coil or anything else hooked up. This is a bench test. So now with this meter, with the points open, I can go over and get a capacitance reading. And so it's setting to around 228 nanofarad, which is going to be, let me grab our spec. Our spec is shown in the book as 0.18 to 0.23 microfarad. Well, this is 0.23. So this condenser tests perfect. If this reading is off on capacitance, if it's low, or when you got the points open and you see low resistance, you see hundreds or thousands of ohms of resistance, then the condenser is shorted or shorting out and will need to be replaced. We're going to simulate it being in the car by using our resistor test board and hooking power up to where the coil would go. So this is basically what you would see if we take and we put our meter on voltage and we measure from the distributor side of the coil to ground. With the key on, it'll typically be around 6 to 8 volts because of the ballast resistor. And as we close the points, we want to see the voltage drop low at this point, 0.1 volt. So that's showing that the points are conducting and shorting to ground, which is what you want them to do. If the voltage stayed high, that would show that the points are your source of your ignition trouble. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to replace the points and condenser if they're bad. So we got our replacement parts here from Caddy Daddy. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the wiring loose. That's the wire down here that goes to the coil. That's wire to the condenser. And these are pretty easy. You just have to loosen the 2 mounting screws for the points. And then they just slide right out. And we take and you can see how this end hooks in and swing it around, making sure it stays underneath the lock washer. And there's a little indexing pin that's kind of hard to see. You can see the hole here in the old ones. There's a little bump on this point plate that goes in there, so that's indexes everything. So tighten those down. Okay, get those nice and tight. And we need to make a preliminary adjustment to the points. So what we want to do is get the lobe, right, the wiper onto the lobe on the high spot. And very quickly here, put my meter on here onto continuity mode. Flip it on. And we're going to turn this adjustment clockwise till we have continuity. And we're going to turn it counterclockwise 1/2 turn. And that will give you your preliminary setting for your points. Now, General Motors, not just Cadillac, but pretty much all their makes, allows you access to the adjusting screw from outside of the distributor. You can adjust the point gap with the engine running, with the distributor mounted in the engine running, with your dwell meter hooked up. And so you'll want to hook your dwell meter up per the instructions, whatever unit you have. And with the engine running, you can get in here and adjust this until you want to see 30 degrees of dwell angle. And that will mean that your points gap are absolutely perfect. So now that we got the points mounted and we've made the preliminary adjustment on the screw, one last thing we need to do is apply some lubrication to the cam. And so a little tough to get in there. Best to use the finger sometimes. Just put a little ignition grease on the cam there. Rotate it around, and that lubricates the points and the cam so that they don't wear the plastic runner down on the point assembly. And the condenser is real easy to replace. Just unscrew that. Let's see if it slides. That one's going to slide right out for us. Slide the new one in. Bring the wire around under the screw. Comes under the screw. Tighten it back up, and you're ready to go. So that's quick and easy to replace the points and condenser in pretty much any distributor. And let's get this thing out of the vise. And if you haven't been having any drivability issues, you shouldn't have any trouble with the vacuum advance, but you can apply a little vacuum, make sure everything moves. And now this unit's ready to go back into the car. Remembering to stab it back in exactly the way you got it out. So you want to make sure you have the rotor in the proper position where it came out. On these cars with the gear on the distributor, it's going to rotate as you insert it. And then once you get it inserted, then you can rotate the body back to the position that it came from. And just so you know, on these, the rotor, simply, if you're going to replace the cap in the rotor will only fit one way. There's a round pin and a square pin, and they will only fit one way. And then you got a couple of screws to screw it down. Okay, let's go get this mounted back into the car. Just remember, if you need any of the parts that you've seen today, you can order them from Caddy Daddy from the links below.
Caddy Daddy presents It's All About Giving Back. Please enjoy the video of the Boys and Girls Clubs of St. Helena and Calistoga. You can donate by clicking the link in the video description.